What happens if and when every single New York Ranger forward is healthy at the same time, and which former Ranger is back with the organization? All this and more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 975 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So something that I've been meaning to get to for quite some time now, just kind of been trying to circle back to it, and we're finally going to make it happen here, is just a quick discussion about what's going to happen if and when every New York Ranger forward is healthy at the same time. And we don't know when that's going to be. You know, the two guys that are out right now that been out for quite some time are Kaapo, Kakko, and Filip. Obviously, the Rangers have done a very commendable job in their absence. They've been winning and winning and winning. Even so, I do think Filip and Kakko certainly make this team better, certainly make this team deeper. And, you know, it's a good problem to have because in other seasons, you know, somebody leaves the lineup and it's not too hard to figure out a way to get them back in there. But with the way that the Rangers have been playing recently, you look at this and there's not really anybody in the lineup that like you're dying to take out of there. I mean, maybe some guys are bigger options to come out of the lineup than others, sure. But I feel like right now the Rangers, even with these injuries, they've got 12 forwards that are bringing at least something to the table. Everybody has their role. Everybody contributes in one way or another. So to kind of map out the depth chart that I think the Rangers will go with their forwards if and when everybody is healthy at the same time, we'll start with the top line. And I'm not going to do anything too radically different from what you might expect and what the Rangers have been going with recently, quite simply for the reason that the Rangers just continue to win and win and win. Just off to a fantastic start so far this season. And so I think for the top line, you keep them together left to right. You go Kreider, Mika, and Wheeler. Obviously, a little bit of a revolving door at that top line right wing spot, not just this season, but in seasons past as well. Recently, though, it feels like Blake Wheeler's kind of found his game, and Kreider and Mika, right along with Blake Wheeler, have also been playing very, very well. So I'm not really going to mess with that line. I got to keep them together, even when Kakko comes back. It's one of those things, you know, sooner or later, Kakko can work his way back into that spot if he plays well enough. And if a shakeup is needed or a jolt is needed on that line. But for the time being, I think Blake Wheeler's kind of earned that spot. They've given a lot of different people chances to earn that top line right wing spot. And Blake Wheeler in his latest stint doing better than anybody else has so far this season. So we're going to keep that line together. The other line that I cannot touch is the second line, left to right, of course, Panarin, Trocheck, and Alexis Lafreniere. We've talked about Panarin in recent episodes, just this line in general. The last line, I want to say they combined for like, what was it? I think it was 9 points from these three individuals. I believe they were a plus 10 as well combined. And Panarin's an MVP candidate. He's done most of that while playing with Trocheck and Lafreniere. The two of them are having the best seasons of their respective careers. Lafreniere for sure, probably Trocheck as well. And just can't mess with it for all those reasons. I think you'd be crazy to want to split that lineup. So then you come to the third line, and this is basically where we're going to plug and play both Filip and Kaapo Kakko. We're going to leave Will Cooley on the left wing on the third line. I think he's certainly earned it. You know, Cooley, I've talked about this before. I don't like despise the idea of him playing on the fourth line. He plays physical and tough enough, and he is a rookie, so you bring him along slowly. If they wanted to start him on the fourth line to begin the season, I would have been okay with that. But by this point, he's played very well. He's kind of earned his spot in the top nine, and I'm just not going to take it away from him. It just wouldn't really make any sense. So Cooley stays on the left wing there. You get Filip at center, assuming he can come back healthy, and Kaapo Kakko at right wing. It sounds like he's going to be due back, a little bit sooner than Filip. So right away, that line gets a little bit of a boost in terms of scoring prowess. And, there might be some people who scoff at that. Obviously, Kakko was struggling a little bit this season, struggling quite a bit, actually, at least offensively. 3 points in 20 games. Filip had yet to score a goal, though he did have 6 assists in 10 games. And Cooley, the rookie, he chips in offensively every now and then. And for the ice time that he's getting, he's producing a good amount offensively. As I mentioned in a recent episode, outside shot at 20 goals for Will Cooley. But that would be probably about the best that third line has looked all season. And obviously injuries have a lot to do with that, but certainly an intriguing trio there. And then for the fourth line, left to right, I'm going Jimmy Vesey, Nick Bonino, Barclay Goodrow. Bonino is more of a center. Goodrow, as we know, can play any of the 3 forward positions, so we'll move him over to the right wing spot there. Bonino can be at center, and Bonino, of course, moves from the third line down to the fourth line. And that leaves you with extras of Tyler Pitlick and Jonny Brodzinski. And if we assume that the Rangers want to keep one of them as a healthy scratch, that they'll be able to keep one of them as a healthy scratch, it's kind of a toss-up for me. I had to think about this quite a bit, but I'm going to go with Pitlick as the 13th forward and Jonny Brodzinski sent down to the AHL. Now, of course, the not so good part of this is that whether it's Brodzinski or Pitlick being sent down, either one of them to go to the AHL would have to pass through waivers. There's no guarantee that either one of them would. Jonny Brodzinski, it's happened before where the Rangers have had to send him back to the AHL through waivers, and he's made it every single time. I feel like he would probably get through again. I just don't know that somebody's going to submit a waiver claim, and see Jonny Brodzinski as somebody that's going to come in and alter the franchise or something along those lines. Jonny Brodzinski's a hardworking player, and I hate to do this to him. Does have a really nice role when he's with the Wolf Pack as their captain. But I just feel like comparing the two players, Brodzinski gives you a little bit more speed, a little bit more offense. Tyler Pitlick, though, has really played well on that fourth line. He gives you a physical presence. He's a hard hitter, a hardworking player. That fourth line, I think, has really played well for the Rangers recently. And I just feel like the Rangers, once everybody is healthy and they're at full strength, if that does happen, they're kind of in a situation where Pitlick's skill set will be just a little bit more useful to the Rangers, I think, than Jonny Brodzinski. But another possibility here is that, and I think it's more than a possibility, I think it's basically a strong possibility. I do think the Rangers at the trade deadline this season will probably end up adding a forward. It might just be one forward given their relative lack of cap space. But if another forward comes in, then you might be in a situation where, both Brodzinski and Pitlick at one time or another have to pass through waivers to go to the AHL, or maybe one of those players is involved in the return package for whatever forward that the Rangers trade for. That's always a possibility as well. There's a lot of different ways this thing could go, but I really can't see anybody else other than Brodzinski and Pitlick from the other 14 Ranger forwards. Once everybody's healthy, I can't see anybody other than them being the kind of odd man out from this roster. I know some people get on Nick Bonino, still think he's useful as a face-off man, good defensive forward, hard-nosed player, blocks a ton of shots, kills penalties. I think he's valuable for that role. I know people get on Barclay Goodrow from time to time, but he's a hard-nosed, hard-working player in his own right. Jimmy Vesey has been great this season, playing his brand of just blue-collar, hard-working hockey while also adding quite a bit of offense as well, especially for a fourth liner. So that's all to say that I think really what it comes down to is it's probably going to be either Brodzinski or Pitlick that's the odd man out once everybody is healthy. And it could even end up being both of them, depending on what the Rangers do at the trade deadline. But those are the line combinations I want to go with. I think it makes the most sense. Filip, it's unfortunate that he would not be with Panarin and Lafreniere. There's a saying that gets thrown around every now and then that, you can't lose your spot due to injury, but it's not really true. I know that's kind of like it's a well-meaning thing to say, but we've seen players in every sport at every level at one time or another lose their job due to getting injured. And it's unfortunate. It's a cold business, professional sports for sure. But it is what it is. And I think Chytil coming back, putting him on the third line, that's probably the best way to break him back into the action anyway. I said something similar about Kakko in a recent episode. You put the two of them out there with Will Cooley. It's a young line. You can even call it Kid Line 2.0 if you want to. Although, Filip is up to 24 at this point. We might have to get rid of the whole Kid Line thing. But either way, I do think that would be a solid line for the Rangers. And I think that's the way you line up once everybody is eventually healthy. So got to keep everything rolling in just a second here. The Rangers actually re-signed somebody from their past, somebody that has not been on or a part of the Ranger organization in more than 10 years. And it kind of blew my mind when I saw that happening earlier today, when I saw news going around on Twitter. We're going to talk about that player in just a second and how he might fit in. First, though, we definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by our very good friends at Sleeper. It's almost the halfway point of the NHL season. Ranger fans, they are off to a great start this season, but regardless of where the Rangers are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Panarin, Kreider, Mika, Fox, or more will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Ranger fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you will get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right, we just want to go ahead and thank everybody, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And we also want to mention that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so going to go ahead and keep everything rolling here for the everydayers. In our next episode, you're definitely going to want to come back. We're going to break down whatever happens between the Rangers and the Blackhawks on Thursday night. But there was a story certainly that I did not expect to see, and not really in a bad way. It's just one of those things that you have to do a double take, maybe even a triple take when you first see it on social media or however you get your hockey news initially. And that is that the Rangers, or more specifically the Wolf Pack, have signed Artem Anisimov to a PTO. Now, a couple of reasons why this really surprised me. For starters, I was today years old when I found out that Artem Anisimov was still playing hockey, but it appears to be a fact. He is still going strong. Anisimov, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, will remember him, former New York Ranger. He was a second-round draft pick in 2006. He went number 54 overall in what was an otherwise disastrous draft class for the New York Rangers. I feel like you could say that about a lot of different seasons with the Rangers over the years, but just to kind of put you guys back in the time period when Anisimov was drafted, again, second round. That same year, the Rangers in the first round took Bobby Sanguinetti, who only played 5 games with the Rangers, less than 100 games in the NHL. And then in the third round, they took somebody by the name of Ryan Hillier, not really sure, but long story short, pretty disastrous draft class for the Rangers. And Artem Anisimov, one of the only players there to do anything even somewhat relevant. Anisimov was a good player for the Rangers and some other teams as well. But yeah, a little bit of background here as far as Anisimov and what he brings to the table. Was a speedy player, was here from the 2008-2009 season through the 2011-2012 season. So more than 10 years. And now 35 years old. He's a center. He's played 771 NHL games with the Rangers, the Blue Jackets, the Blackhawks, and the Senators. Last played with the Sens in 2020-2021. 13 years in the NHL, 180 goals, 196 assists, 376 points. He's a minus 17, 410 block shots, 397 hits. And I would say his best season for the Rangers was back in 2010, 2011. He had 44 points in 82 games as a 22-year-old. Again, probably his best season with the Blue Shirts. And some of you guys will probably remember one of his more infamous moments with the Rangers. He kind of got into some hot water when he did this. Basically, he scored a goal against the Tampa Bay Lightning while the Rangers were shorthanded. And he used his stick to kind of hold it up as if it was like a shotgun. He did not claim to be pointing it at the goalie or anything like that. It was just kind of a unique celebration, but all hell broke loose when this happened. Vinny Lecavalier, he went after Anisimov. Dubinsky and Delzato were in the middle of it for the Rangers as well. Dubinsky ended up dropping the gloves, getting into a fight with somebody, and Anisimov got a game misconduct. And this is all documented, by the way, on that mini series that I talk about every once in a while, the Road to the Winter Classic. It's on YouTube. You can go back and watch it. But Anisimov, once again, got a game misconduct when this happened, and he's waiting for his team in the locker room because he's the only guy in there First player back to the dressing room is Sean Avery. So naturally, he kind of like looks at Anisimov and just kind of like shakes his head and smiles. And Anisimov's kind of smiling back, but then everybody else comes in and he tries to not smile because I don't think he wants to rub anybody the wrong way. Young player in the league when it happened. Anyway, I just had to bring that up. Artem Anisimov was a good player for the Rangers, somebody that has not come up in discussion on this podcast in a very, very, very long time. But somehow, some way, he is back with the Rangers once again with the Wolf Pack on a PTO. Also of note, when Anisimov joined the Blackhawks, he went on to get a hat trick against the Rangers. So it's nice to know that some things definitely never change. As far as this signing right here, right now, today, though, it's fine. It's kind of just whatever. It's organizational depth. It's another veteran. You think of the AHL, and a lot of times you think of the young up-and-coming players, the prospects, but you need a couple veterans in that locker room, too. Riley Nash is one of the more notable veterans with the Wolfpack. Obviously, Brodzinski was, but he got called up to the Rangers, and has done a solid job for them overall, but he's not there anymore. Maybe they're thinking that they want to bring in, obviously another veteran there in the form of Artem Anisimov. But Anisimov spent the last 2 seasons with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms of the AHL. 55 games, 19 goals, 17 assists, 36 points, also a -2 in that time. The year before that, he was in the KHL with Locomotive, 8 goals, 11 assists in 27 games. So again, it's fine as organizational depth. Do we see Anisimov with the Rangers this season? Probably not, but I suppose stranger things have certainly happened. We'll see what happens going forward here. But it's crazy to think about like how many players Anisimov has outlasted. You look back at that 2014 team that went to the Stanley Cup for the Rangers, and Anisimov was not on that team. He left the Rangers, I believe, about 2 years before that. But the veteran players from the 2014 squad that went to the finals, a lot of those guys have long since retired and everything. And lately, we're seeing some guys that were kind of young back then, and even they're starting to retire. Derek Stepan and Carl Hagelin certainly come to mind. This past offseason, the two of them hung it up. Artem Anisimov has outlasted a lot of players. He's been doing this for a long time. Again, now 35 years old, and doesn't hurt to have another veteran in the locker room. One other thing about the Wolfpack, while we're talking about them, we might as well mention the fact that in December, they went 4-6. Their most recent win was a 3-2 win over the Bridgeport Islanders. They trailed 2-0 after the first period, but obviously came back to win that game. So, yep, Anisimov somehow, some way, breaks the space-time continuum, and he is indeed back with the New York Rangers. So we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to shift our attention back to the World Juniors, everything that's happening there. We got 2 semifinal matchups on the way, and a couple of Ranger prospects still playing in that tournament. We'll get to that in just a second. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. I've mentioned this in the past too, but I have a really good friend, big-time New York Giants fan, and his strategy is always to bet against the Giants because, as he explains it to me, something good happens no matter what. Either he gets his bet wrong, but his favorite team wins, or the Giants lose, but he at least gets some money out of the deal. So just kind of an idea to toss out there at you guys. But once again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here with a little bit of World Juniors talk, just kind of bring everybody up to speed on what's happening in that tournament. We are up to the semifinals. It's just been a phenomenal tournament so far. If you haven't had a chance to tune in, can't recommend it enough for these last handful of games here. Again, only 4 teams left standing at this point. But the last time we talked about this was 2 days ago, and the quarterfinals were underway. As I recorded the episode on Tuesday, a couple of the quarterfinal games were still yet to be played, but to kind of run through everything that happened there. So you've got Finland beating Slovakia 4-3 in overtime. So with that loss for Slovakia, Ranger, former second-round pick Adam Sikora, his tournament comes to an end. He was actually the captain of Slovakia this time around. You also had Czechia shocking everybody and beating Canada 3-2. They scored with just 11 seconds to go to break the deadlock there. So pretty big upset. They threw a stat out there where that was only the third time in 26 years that that Canada has not made it at least to the semifinals. So pretty crazy to think about. You've also got USA beating Latvia 7-2, and Sweden beating Switzerland 3-2 in overtime. Sweden was up 2-0. Switzerland tied it. Looking for the upset was Switzerland, but it was not to be. Sweden won. And now the semifinal matchups are set for Thursday. You've got the United States is going to be playing the second of the two games. They will be at 1:30 Eastern time, taking on Finland. And then you have Sweden and Czechia. That's the first game at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And like I said, cannot recommend those games enough. To kind of catch everybody up to the other Ranger prospects, though, obviously Sakura, his team was eliminated. He's no longer in the tournament. But the Rangers do have two prospects that are alive for a gold medal here for the United States. That would be Gabe Perreault and Drew Fortescue. 5 games into the tournament, Perreault has 2 goals and 4 assists. He's also a +2. And he also had a clutch shootout goal during one of the preliminary games where if he didn't score, the United States would have lost that game, and he kept them alive, and they went on to win a little bit later in the shootout. And Perreault, watching him in this tournament, he just looks the part. You can see why, so many Ranger fans are so hyped about this guy. And, oh, my God, how did he fall all the way to us at number 23? I think the Rangers really got lucky there that nobody else pounced on him. Not the biggest guy, so I guess there's a little bit of concern there. But when you have the kind of skill that this kid has, I think it's certainly worth whatever little bit of a gamble it might be to take him in the first round. So Perreault just looks awesome, sees the ice so well, excellent puck handler, excellent passer. The sky is the limit for Gabe Perreault. And then, Fortescue, solid defenseman, big defenseman. There's not a ton of flash to his game from what I'm seeing in this tournament, and that's also been kind of the MO on him as well. But just a very steady, very consistent defenseman. 5 games so far. He's got 1 goal, 2 assists, and is a +6. We had both players, kind of showing out very well in the 7-2 win against Latvia. Fortescue scored the first goal of the game on a shot from near the top of the left circle. And, while we're on the subject, the United States has really gotten off to some good starts in this tournament. So obviously the hope is that continues going into the semifinals here. But then Gabe Perreault basically took over. He ended up with a 3-point game, 11:42 into the first period. Perreault scored to make it 2-0. He was wide open. Really good pass across the ice. He gets the puck, turns to the net, and buries it, makes it 2-0. The net was absolutely wide open for Perreault. He just is not going to miss a shot like this. So the two Rangers, Fortescue and Perreault, getting the first 2 goals of this game here. And Perreault later got the primary assist on a goal by Will Smith. That made the score 5-1 in favor of the United States. And then with just 21 seconds to go in the second period, Perreault, beautiful goal here. The hand-eye coordination on full display. He basically just bats a puck out of midair and into the net. So basically, Will Smith was trying to get the puck to Perreault. It got deflected by a Latvia player, popped into the air. Perreault's there, cool, calm, and collected. Just takes a kind of a short baseball swing at the puck, knocks it right into the net, and that made the score 6-1 in favor of the U.S. And again, they went on to win 7-2. So a lot of interesting things going on. There's some blowout wins in this tournament for sure, but there's also some big-time upset wins. A couple of the games have gone into overtime. This quartet of quarterfinal games here today has to be among the best and most exciting that we've ever seen from this tournament, because 2 went into overtime. 1 saw the game-winning goal scored with 11 seconds left. There were upsets. There were comeback bids. There were successful comebacks. The U.S. game was obviously lopsided, but 3 out of 4 certainly is not bad. It's a really fun tournament. And as I've talked about in the past, guys, I can't recommend it enough. I realize that, obviously the tournament's closer to the end than the beginning at this point. But, you still have a chance to check this out, see the stars of tomorrow, and, obviously see Gabe Perreault and Drew Fortescue in action. Perreault, of course, the former first-round pick for the Rangers. Drew Fortescue, a former third-round pick for the Rangers. It's been a blast so far, and I'm just looking forward to continuing to watch this and see how these Ranger prospects fare the rest of the way in this tournament and see who ultimately wins the gold medal. But like I said, the semifinals both going to be happening on Thursday, and the bronze medal game followed by the gold medal game on Friday. That's pretty much it for today. One other thing that I did want to mention, though, we do mailbag episodes every now and then, and I should do a better job of letting you guys know when they're coming up. It's one of those things where I kind of decide like the day of or the day before. But anytime you guys want me to talk about a certain topic, address something going on with the Rangers, maybe a historical question about the Rangers, rank your top 5 whatevers, in Ranger history, go ahead and send it my way. Don't be shy. Love hearing different ideas for episodes. Love seeing different perspectives as well. And yeah, if you'd like to do that, definitely don't hesitate. Go ahead and send an email, and happy to hear from you guys and address whatever topics you would like me to address on a future episode. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's at @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.